What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 19:08 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Europe. So what you're looking at here is the flight path of a U.S. nuke sniffer plane. This is a Boeing WC-135R Constant Phoenix, and this plane can detect radiation in the atmosphere from nuclear tests, nuclear explosions, nuclear power plant meltdowns, etc. And this plane took off from the UK and flew all the way up to Russia's Kola Peninsula area, just to the north of Murmansk, which is where Russia has 2/3 of their nuclear-armed submarines. And what's very concerning is that it was flying really low in altitude near Murmansk. Okay, at one point here it was only flying at an altitude of 9,000 feet and a ground speed of only 348 miles an hour. So it was flying lower than your typical passenger jet, much lower and much slower. Typically they cruise around 500 miles an hour. This thing was only flying at 340 miles an hour and flying really low, so it must have been trying to get a bead on something over here off the coast of the Kola Peninsula, which is an area where Russia tests their nuclear weapons. We have the island of Novaya Zemlya, which is where the Russians tested the Tsar bomb, the largest ever bomb detonated in human history, 50 megatons. So it looks like Russia's testing nuclear weapons, or they have dispersed all of their nuclear-armed subs, and they're trying to get a bead on these subs here in the Barents Sea. And last week I reported the big news that Russia has basically emptied out all of their submarine and naval bases in the Kola Peninsula. And you only do that when you're expecting things to escalate. You disperse your warships and submarines, so this way they're not vulnerable to attack, okay? So this is extremely serious. It means that there's gonna be some kind of an escalation soon. Maybe Russia's gonna invade the Baltics or something else, but something is definitely brewing over here. And we have major breaking news coming in from France. French doctors are being advised to prepare for a possible war by the spring of 2026, according to Le Figaro. On July 18th, hospitals received a letter instructing them to be ready to admit tens of thousands of wounded soldiers in the event of a major war in Europe. Estimates suggest that in the first month there could be between 10,000 and 50,000 casualties. I'm sorry, not soldiers, but civilians and soldiers, okay? So this is extremely serious. France is preparing for a big war by the spring of 2026. And a plane carrying the chief of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, was targeted by Russian GPS jamming as it was about to land in Bulgaria, according to the European Commission. And in response to this targeting of her plane, the EU will be holding some kind of a high-level meeting on how to respond. But basically they tried to jam her plane, which would cause her to crash. It's basically an assassination attempt. I mean, imagine if Putin was flying near Europe and we started jamming Putin's plane. I mean, that's a big deal. And Poland has launched its largest ever military drills as Russia and Belarus are preparing to hold exercises right on Poland's borders. The exercises, which involve around 30,000 Polish and Allied troops and 600 pieces of equipment. So this would be the largest Polish multinational or Allied exercise since Poland left the Warsaw Pact, so since the early 90s. And during a news conference in the Oval Office on Tuesday, President Donald Trump announced the U.S. military shot out a drug boat from Venezuela in the southern Caribbean. He said over the last few minutes, we literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, Trump said during the news conference. A lot of drugs in that boat, and you'll be seeing that, and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago. And the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, later posted to X, sharing additional details, noting the hit was a lethal strike. He wrote, as POTUS just announced moments ago, today the U.S. military conducted a lethal strike in the southern Caribbean against a drug vessel which had departed from Venezuela, Rubio wrote. And apparently one of the Republicans from Florida, Representative Mario Diaz-Balart, said that President Trump has a history of defeating terrorists. The U.S. military presence off of Venezuela is not a show. Wow. Okay, and he actually chairs the House Appropriations Subcommittee on National Security, Department of State, and related programs, and serves on the Defense Subcommittee shaping U.S. national security and foreign policy funding. Okay, so this guy, a representative from the 26th District of Florida, Republican, saying that the U.S. military presence off of Venezuela is not just a show. And I told you guys that it's just a matter of time before Trump decides to take out Maduro. Trump wants to eliminate Maduro and change the regime. He wants that Venezuelan oil. He's after the Venezuelan oil. And, you know, he can easily just say that, oh, he's fighting, you know, the cartels. But really he wants that oil, you know, because that Venezuelan oil would really drop our fuel prices down quite a bit and reduce reliance on Middle Eastern oil. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see what happens, but very, very serious situation in Venezuela unfolding. And the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said, we will not allow the time of colonialism and domination of South America to return. And Colombian President Petro warned that aggression against Venezuela could turn the greater Colombian region into a scene of war and fragmentation similar to what was experienced in Syria and Iraq. He said mass murderers will take over territories driven by greed and states will be weakened. So he's saying that there's going to be like massive tribalism and fracturing of countries with cartels taking control of different regions of all these countries around Venezuela. And Trump said today at his news conference, I had a very good meeting with Putin a couple of weeks ago. If nothing comes out of it, we will take a different stance. He also said that he was very disappointed in Putin. He said, I'm very disappointed with President Putin. I can say that. We'll be doing something to help people live. You know, it's not the question of Ukraine, it's to help people live. So Trump basically doubling down on his disappointment in Putin. He said this on a podcast yesterday. Okay, so very serious situation. And the French president and the British prime minister will be holding a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing at the Élysée Palace on Thursday. So that's all the countries, the most powerful countries in Europe that are supporting Ukraine and sending arms to Ukraine. And Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico said that after returning from Beijing on Thursday evening, I will travel to eastern Slovakia to hold a bilateral meeting with Zelensky on Friday. Wow, that is pretty serious because we know that Robert Fico does not like Zelensky, and Robert Fico is very close with Putin and is a strong supporter of Putin. So this is after the big meeting this week in China. We have Putin, the Chinese president, the North Korean president, all the basically BRICS countries and the countries allied with BRICS are there in China right now, including the Slovakian prime minister. So very interesting. And Trump said that he is not concerned about growing China-Russia ties or an axis forming against the U.S., insisting the two countries would never use their militaries against America. He said, "We have the strongest military in the world by far." And the Turkish president said at the Shanghai meeting that he discussed the Ukraine war with Putin and Zelensky, but noted that neither of them are yet ready for a meeting. Okay, so Erdogan saying that Putin and Zelensky are not going to be meeting anytime soon. And the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that the alliance's defenses need to be strengthened due to the fact that there is a direct threat from Russia, which is growing every day. Okay, so Mark Rutte concerned about Russia. And one of the USSR's pride and joy, the legendary RT-70 radio telescope, a unique 70-meter antenna worth billions, was destroyed in Crimea recently. Its reconstruction cost the Kremlin 1.8 billion rubles, and also other air defense positions and radar stations were hit recently. So Ukraine destroying this legendary Russian USSR radio telescope. And the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit announced the starting on August 31st of the U.S. Navy's Iwo Jima Amphibious Readiness Group will begin conducting a series of exercises with the Puerto Rican National Guard along the southern part of the island. Wow, so Puerto Rico's National Guard and the Marine Amphibious Ready Group will be doing exercises. Interesting about the timing and the location of that, okay? They're probably going to be practicing beach landings because that's what amphibious readiness groups do. And they're probably practicing to land on the coast of Venezuela to decapitate the Maduro regime and go after the cartels. And Dutch F-35 fighter jets arrived in Poland. The jets will operate from a Polish base alongside Norwegian F-35, so they're beefing up the F-35 presence in Poland. And Italy plans to tighten security on state flights after GPS interference affected Ursula von der Leyen's plane. Measures may include classifying flight data and restricting access to tracking and flight plans to counter potential electronic attacks. And Trump said today that Canada wants to be a part of the Golden Dome air defense system. He said, "We will work something out with them, I hope." And Turkey reportedly sets to expand its military presence in Cyprus from 40,000 to 100,000 soldiers, citing a growing threat from Israel. Interesting. And Russia signed a huge gas contract with China at this meeting in China. So Gazprom signed an agreement to build the Power of Siberia 2 gas pipeline to China via Mongolia. Gazprom also agreed to deliver more gas to China through 2 other routes, the existing Power of Siberia pipeline and the Far Eastern Link. Gazprom will ship up to 50 billion cubic meters a year via the Power of Siberia 2 for 30 years. However, the price will be lower than what Europe currently pays. So Russia's going to supply China with cheap gas for the next 30 years. This is going to ensure that Putin's war machine does not stop. Okay, there's a lot of people out there thinking that, oh, you know, Russia's economy is going to collapse. They're going to collapse, and no, it's not going to happen. Okay, they have those gas revenues that can fuel their war machine forever. Okay. And according to South Korean intelligence, around 2,000 North Korean soldiers were killed so far in the Ukraine war. And Iran has a new ultra-secure underground nuclear site, even tougher than Fordow. One near Natanz is dug 160 meters deep, nearly twice as deep as Fordow, making it almost impossible to destroy. And the Illinois governor said he had inside information that Trump is preparing to deploy Texas National Guard to Chicago. And Trump said today that he is going to be sending the National Guard to Chicago. It's just a matter of when. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I'll probably be back tomorrow with more breaking news, and I will restart my 24/7 live stream tonight. So check out my sponsors in the meantime. It helps keep this channel running full time. Consider making a PayPal donation. Consider joining me on Patreon so you get access to these videos without advertisements. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.